Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host, and I'm here with my friend Jack. Jack, thank you for helping me out here. Jack actually helps me out on YouTube. He's been helping out for several months and has made a lot of really good clips that you see up there and has done a lot of great work. So I always appreciate that, Jack. And so we are here today to talk to you about I think it's a great film. I watched it. I just finished watching it. And the age of disclosure. But I think before we get started, let's just say, first of all, what did you think of the movie? I mean, I thought it was really great. What's your feelings about it?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I loved it. I thought it was really good for the community to get that out there. I mean, we've all been waiting for it for since March when it aired over in Austin, Texas. So
right,
I've been dying to see it.
South by Southwest. And it's funny, I'm showing the picture here on YouTube now. These are all the people that were there at that event. And my friend who lives down where I am now, down in South Carolina, he traveled there and he sat through that and, watched it. And it's funny, when people aren't into the UFO topic, says, yeah, that was good. But if it was me not into the UFO topic, if I watch that, I go, oh my God, there's really something to this. I just think it's funny how different people react. But anyway, I'm going to start out. I did get permission from the publicist, so I'm going to play the trailer to it right here. Here it goes.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real, they're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I worked on highly classified UAP programs.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
A 1-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
So look at that thing. It's rotated. There's a whole fleet of them.
The first country that cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
China has established its own version of a UAP task force.
You think for a second that they wouldn't consider using it to achieve their ends of domination?
This is similar to the Manhattan Project. This is the atomic weapon on steroids.
This is so secret. Very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful about a government that doesn't trust its people, because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
What else you want to know?
So yeah, that's a great trailer. But I have to say, it's pretty funny today. I get several texts and emails from people saying, "Hey, well, I saw you in the movie, but I'm not a participant in the movie." I have to be very clear. I just happened to be at both DC hearings, and so that's how I show up. And it's really funny. I just took a picture. I'm looking for it here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can see me.
Oh yeah, there he is.
Phone in the back. I held that phone up the entire hearing when at the first hearing. And also there's another scene of me talking in a hallway, which is pretty funny, but that's the only cut I made on this movie. But yeah, anyway, that's, just a small part of the movie. I think there's, a lot of times people say to me, well, did you get anything new out of it? That's what everyone wants to know. Anything new? And I got to say, this time I'm going to say, yes, I did get a lot of new things out of it. I don't know if that's something you want to address first before me, or would you like me just to throw in, what I got?
I think I'm looking at my notes here as I'm looking down, Martin. I think for me, well, one thing that I thought that was interesting was what Lou said, how he seemed pretty confident. And I don't remember him saying this on other podcasts when he was doing his podcast run. I even saw him in Boston when he did his presentation
at the winery.
Yeah, at the winery and they talk about the physics of it and the bubbles, and they talk about the bubbles in the documentary again too. But he was saying how he was like pretty much confident, like he knew the way he talked about it, that NHI is doing what he calls active ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance on us as a species. But it was like said so direct. I don't remember him being so forefront, almost as if he researched that, found the evidence for it, and now he's telling us like, yeah, they're watching us and they're collecting data on us as a species. That's the way it was presented to me in the film that I thought was interesting. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think and what some of the things that you saw that you learned in that film too. I mean, you've been at it for what, 14 years now? I've only been doing this for 3 to 4 years. So it'd be great to hear your take.
Yeah. Well, it's always great to hear, your take as well on it. So first of all, I want to say hi to everyone that's joined us tonight in chat. We have Mary Grace Kirby, a long time listener of the show. I think well over 10 years. We also have Jay. Thank you for being here. John Hawks, Stargazer, Duckhead, who's in here quite a bit. Alien Girl. She's kind of the last few weeks have been joining in. Thank you for joining us. Fellman 12. Thank you again. Everyone here. Ghost. I like that. Ghost Rider. And so thank you, Danger Sep. And let's see, anyone else? Oh, look, Mendonopoulos is here. Hi, Mendy. Us and Whistle Mike. Thank you all for being here. And yes, for those of you who have not seen the movie, I will tell you that it's a very good production. I had a conversation with another filmmaker, be unnamed, and he said that all the beautiful houses that they were in, beautiful furniture and antiques and gorgeous ceilings and very decorative, they're all green screened. I don't know if he says he has an insight on it. They're all green screen. I never thought, I would have never guessed that. Never guessed that. But that doesn't matter. It's still edited beautifully, put together beautifully. It was. Yeah. And one of the things that about when you're just talking about Lou, one of the things he said that really caught my ear was that Lou has said on this show, and I tried to push him on it, and he finally gave more information. And that's, he said, he pondered, put the question out there, like, what if there's some type of intelligence that's always been here and we're not the top of the food chain as far as intelligence goes? And so he elaborated on that more, like a break-off species that, he went into that a bit, and it just made it more intriguing. I really want to know more about, because one of the things he always says, the caveat is that he can't, disclose, classified information, which I totally get. Some people get pretty angry at him for not, spilling it all, but he doesn't, who wants to, lose everything and end up in the slammer, So, yeah, there's a couple of things. One of the things I thought was, we're going to try to do no real spoilers here, but just touch on the base of what the movie, the summary. I do want to give a quote because, and I wrote this down just 1 second, because this quote to me is one of the most profound ones in the movie. Jay Stratton, who is actually Lou Elizondo's superior. And so Jay Stratton basically says, I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings. You know, that's to me, if I mean, that's a first-hand witness, and with this position, I mean, how could you go against that? I mean, I just think that is incredible, and I think one of the takeaways, and we could talk about it a little bit as we get into this some more, but how strong the legacy program is, and that's something that I have always talked about on this show. Like, okay, so let's just say Roswell happened. Roswell happened, and there's some information and there's hardware from Roswell. Well, it goes somewhere. Well, generational. How does this get passed down? And that is, what would be considered a legacy situation. So they explained all that very well, and the blocks were coming from the people involved in the legacy program. How this information is passed down, and perhaps in private contracting, private hands, things like that.
Right.
So
with the CIA at the helm, when they put that graph up, I thought that was really nice to see.
Oh,
that
yeah.
for the first time.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just I'll put up your quotes. Unfortunately, I don't have any way to take a phone call for a while here. So this is I believe it's an opinion here. We are here and have been here walking amongst human. Oh, okay, that's pretty funny. Okay, I get that. That's good. That's good. But anyway, so I welcome all your questions in chat, and I'm not sure who has actually seen, the movie or not. It just premiered today. At one point, a wonderful gentleman, friend, Keith, had asked me, Dr. Keith, I'm just trying to think his last name. He's been on my show, just spacing out his last name. Keith invited.
Taylor?
What?
Is it Taylor?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Keith Taylor, Dr. Keith Taylor. So he invited Donna and I up to the premiere. He bought tickets for us, everything. So I had planned, like we both had planned, well, let's just do it, figure out a way to do it. But then with all the TSA and the cancellations of flights and things like that, we just both got nervous and decided that we were not going to make it there. So anyway, and that's going on right now as we speak. This is the premiere is happening in New York right now.
Great.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I got the notice first thing this morning. I think I got the notice in the middle of the night when I woke up and I looked. Oh yeah, your movie's available now. Because I pre-ordered it. When I found out I wasn't going to New York, I pre-ordered it. But what's the good thing out? Earlier we talked about South by Southwest. And when my friend was out there, he was at this, and he said there was great questions from the audience. I mean, I think he was almost as impressed about that as he was watching the movie. And I don't know, what are your thoughts, Jack? You watched the movie. If you were like someone who never paid any attention at all to the UFO topic, and you happen to be on a plane or something, and you watch that. Don't you think you'd be a little curious? Like, I mean, I can't
feel
help
like you
because
have
I'm in
to
it, but I feel as though that was a very convincing movie.
And I'm in the same boat as you, Martin, in terms of like being in it. Once I had my own sighting, like I know what I saw was not like anything that we use on a daily basis that was flying around in my town here. And like in a world where you can find everything online and research whatever, and you'll eventually find what it is that you're looking for. This one glowing orb that I saw, I to this day can't find anything online about what I saw that night, which is so weird in 2025. I feel like that shouldn't be happening. So I feel it's kind of hard for me to step out of that box and pretend like I never had that sighting and I've done all this research. And let's say I just like Star Wars or something and lived a mundane life and never saw a UFO. What would I think if I saw this film? I feel like you have to pay attention after watching something like this. I just hope it garners the public's attention and gets enough airplay that enough people know that it's even out. Like, I'm too close to the topic. Like, I watched this film right away. I was so pumped, but I don't think everybody else views it that way. I think it'll take a while to percolate. I don't know if it'll be something that's overnight. I think there was some CNN news anchor that said it was up for strong recommendation for an award for a documentary. I don't know what award that was, but something.
Well, yeah, it's a class model of a production there. I mean, everything about it is just so well done, put together. Music, you name it, everything is right there. I'm putting this post up because I have not heard of this. Shmael Nook is wondering, has anyone have any info on the alleged 80-foot Tic Tac that the Russians obtained? This is something I haven't heard of. If anyone is watching live right now in chat, please do post what you know about that or a link or anything. I have not heard anything about it. So go ahead. Go ahead.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just agreeing.
Yeah. Okay. So Mendonopoulos, I know this isn't a question, but I'm still putting it up here. As argued by Vladimir Putin, such high-tech weapons systems, neuroweapons, will be comparable in effect to nuclear weapons, but will be more acceptable in terms of political and military ideology. And she goes on to write, that quote makes me think about what Jay said when Jay Stratton said that this is, the nuclear, I think he said the Manhattan Project on steroids or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, so there were 34 people in that being interviewed. 34 people. That is huge. It's about,
and not just like the top names in the UFO world that everybody talks about and knows about. Hal Puthoff, Jay Stratton, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon. They're all in there.
Right. And Eric Davis. So someone and Eric Davis said a lot of profound things. And, I don't know what, the average person thinks of Eric Davis. He did hold, really high positions. He's kind of an unusual fellow, but I don't think he's just, blowing smoke. It sounds to me that, there's really, that he knows a lot because it kind of fit in with what other people are saying. A lot of things that Marco Rubio said was very, very interesting, I thought. And he basically says, his quote, is basically the American people deserve to know the truth. And I think another thing that really showed in this, Jack, was that you never really see bipartisan cooperation on any other topic that I can possibly think of than in this topic. I mean, there are two people on the other side of the aisle of each other that can't stand each other, or maybe that's a show. I mean, there's such division, but they're on the same page with this. And, it's too bad we can't do more like that in this country. But still, I think it's because of that alone. I mean, if a vote was put to the people, to the American people, all the American people, we want to know exactly what's going on, every single part of what is going on. And that vote came through and it had to be disclosed somehow. Of course, I'm just talking as a layman here. But if there's something a bill that could be pushed through that really addressed everything that, and then there was no way to back out of it, I'm just wondering what it would take to really get all the information.
It would be probably a super large coordinated effort, I would imagine so, at the highest levels for something that's been that top secret for that long and is buried between multiple different organizations, both public and private. I mean, just trying to get some kind of information about it. It's interesting. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows enough about it to know what that would even look like. And if they claimed to have known, then I wouldn't believe that person. I think it's been so secret for so long. Very few people know.
And is it Senator Rounds? He had a lot of really good things to say. So there was the Schumer Rounds. Do I want to say bill? Is that what it was? That was really interesting. And one of possibly one of the mistakes they made, and this isn't my idea. This is I think I heard Ross Coulthart say it, and I agree with him on that. And that is in that was a eminent domain clause. And I think, if corporations really do have this and they've figured out a way to make money on whatever they back engineered, or the possibility of making a huge amount of money in the future of what they are trying to back engineer, they are going to protect that type of hardware to the end. Whatever it is, I don't think any eminent domain could actually access it of any type, because they would bury it if they thought that was it. And of course, that bill never saw the light of day, because I think there's just too many powerful people, stopping that type of situation.
Yep. And I feel like, it gets darker than that in terms of, I remember Ross Coulthart reporting on it, where like it's blue on blue attacks, meaning like people of the same military are engaging in violent conflict with each other just to keep these secret. And that's never a good sign, I feel like, but I'm just speaking as a layman. But yeah, the music was great for this documentary, and the production value was top notch. I don't know, Martin, do you think it would be a good idea if I quoted something that Lou Elizondo said at the end of the film?
Oh yeah.
I don't think it was released on any of the trailers, so it might be a spoiler for anybody in the chat. So cover your ears if you don't want to hear it, but I thought it was an interesting quote. So Lou goes, I'm just reading from my notes here, so I'm going to be looking off to the side. I felt tremendous pressure to share what I can, because I know there will be a time when we all wished we have done things differently. And then he goes, that moment is imminent. And of course, in the film, there's a dramatic pause. I'm sure there's music playing.
The name of his book too. Yes.
The name of his book as well. When that moment comes, I know people will say, I wish someone would have told me sooner. So I don't know. I would love to know what he means by like, what's coming that's so imminent. Like what's the deal? Why is this all happening? They've been at this, since 2017, this giant ball has been rolling, and it took them 5 years just to get this documentary out that maybe not everybody's going to watch. So it's been like a slow, in UFO world, I feel like it's been increasing at a much faster rate. But even at this rate, in terms of all the happenings that have been going on in the UFO world in the past 5 years, since the first hearings back in 2023 and 2017, if you want to go back to the New York Times article. But even if you zoom out further, it's really been a slow bleed, a slow drip of information here and there. But there has to be a reason why they've sped up in the past 5 to 6 years. Wouldn't you agree, Martin, culminating up to this documentary?
You would think so. It does feel that way. And I also want to invite anyone that's participating. Thank you all for being here. If you'd like to type in chat, if you did watch the movie, and, feel free to put your thoughts or a one-liner in there. And if you'd like to. So one of the things, I said earlier, okay, you can close your ears in this one too, if you don't want to hear this. But one of the things that really stood out to me is when Lou Elizondo, once again, was saying that there was a committee of 27 people that were individuals that were mulling over the idea of using extreme measures to quiet both himself and David Grusch.
Oh yeah.
And then he went on to say, I do believe he said he meant that to silence them, kill them. Maybe that's a little extreme, but I don't know. I would think that would be yes. And so Mary Grace put this in just as I was saying it. I think, there is a delay here. So as I was saying before I even said this, she was typing this in there. Yes, that's that was quite a statement during the movie. I like the fact that a lot of it took place in Washington, D.C. That was symbolic in a type of way. And so someone did say to me as a joke, well, I notice now I'm going to probably open up a can of worms here, because there are people that have
do it.
thoughts.
Who cares?
I noticed Bob Lazar wasn't in the movie.
Oh.
But we'll just leave it at that.
He wasn't. Neither was Stephen Greer.
Good point.
Yeah.
However, they did talk about something that Stephen Greer constantly talks about, and that's 0-point energy.
Oh,
you know, they did talk about that possibility, and yes, I also thought it was really incredible of the theories and thoughts, you know, because we have no proof, but of how these things may travel. To me, that was very, very interesting, fascinating, because in a way, you know, it kind of makes sense because, you know, as David Fravor put it, you know, if something is traveling at, you know, I think he said 80,000 feet and drops, you know, so many thousand feet, then if it was a person, they would turn into pudding. And so they have a different theory on how this can happen within a bubble type of thing. And I do believe that Robert Schroeder, who's been on this show a number of times over the years, has had a theory similar to that he's talked about. So, you know, it's all speculation. We really don't know, but
no one knows. Yeah. Well, I will say, when I saw Lou Elizondo give his presentation in Boston about UFOs, and he talked about, you know, the bubbles and trying to explain their propulsion systems, and then it was brought up again in the documentary. I can only relate to my own sighting, and what I saw that night back in 2022 was when the orb shut its light off, when it was darker than the night sky behind it. I thought I was seeing spots in my vision, but I saw a dark center mass, but around that dark center mass, I could see almost like this squiggly line in the night sky around the dark center mass. And to me, it could be, now that I've heard Lou's presentation in this documentary, you know, that maybe I saw that quote unquote bubble that orb may have been operating in when it was floating across town that night. I have no idea. But there was definitely, you know, a circle within a circle that I saw across the night sky. So I don't think that's a coincidence that they're talking about bubbles compared to what I saw floating in the sky that night.
Now, what I saw, I do believe someone was asking how much it costs to rent on Prime. I do believe I paid $24 or $24.95, something like that. For me, you know, it's kind of a lot of money, but I definitely thought it was worth seeing. I really, really am very glad that I watched it. So my own UFO sighting had a light blue glow around it, but it seems to me that, you know, what they showed is a FLIR video, and they said, well, the possible, you know, fuzziness around it could be what they're talking about. However, I don't think when people are seeing this visually that they see that. I know I didn't. I had a blue glow around mine, but I didn't see like a distortion of what could be some type of bubble, like it does show up in FLIR. And maybe that's the only way it can be detected, if that's what it is. So,
right.
Oh, okay. So thank you, Mary Grace. She set me straight here. It is $24.99 to buy. So I had to do that. I had to pre-order it. I pre-ordered it, you know, a week or so ago, but you can rent it for $19.99. So, but anyway, you know, the price always goes down, but I'm going to say that if you rent it, it's worth it, and you're going to be happy that you did. And Dan Ferrara, who put this movie together, I've been in touch with the publicity company, and Donna has all the way back since January, and been working quite close with them and to get Dan on the show. And then I guess he got so busy that he couldn't make it. He was supposed to be on before the premiere, but it just didn't work out. So hopefully I'll have him on, you know, after, you know, he's on, you know, things that, of course, he's going to be on things like Joe Rogan, like he was. And, you know, I think he was on with Chris Como and others. And of course he was on with Bill Maher. And so, you know, he's gotten a lot of exposure. So I'm just a little lowly podcaster here. You know, maybe he'll be on eventually. But you know, when he gets that type of publicity out there and doing those talks, it makes a huge difference. I totally understand it. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like he'll be busy for a little while too, but I wouldn't be surprised if you'll get him for sure.
Yeah, I try. I do what I always do and just tell, how long I was the first one to, interview this person and that person, like Chris Mellon and stuff like that. So, it basically, I like the way they talk about, the 80-year global cover-up. I think that's important. And there are people like James Clapper and Brennan and all these high up, former intelligence people that, I mean, they don't get much higher than that. They were actually, chiming in on what they thought this was, what was going on in general. So, yeah, I mean, I think, there's been a lot of buzz about this, and I know there was a stumbling block somewhere along the line for them getting this movie out there. And I only know it because I know some people in the film business, and it was pitched, something that dropped through. And so that's why it took so long to come out, because, things were, it didn't look good for a while, but now it's, it's not in theater release as far as I know. Maybe it will be, at this point. Things changed when COVID came along. People like Randall Nickerson with the Ariel Phenomenon, beautiful film. His was all set to go in the theaters, and COVID came along. And then James, with the Phenomenon, James Fox. And so everyone's adjusted to the way these things work. And there's more of an online experience now than ever. And, and I think that's just what we're going to have to be doing. I don't know about things like this going into the theater. So I do want to say, if anyone has any questions or any comments on the movie itself, please do put in there. And if you happen to have a question, just put in all caps. Again, I'm sorry we don't have any way to talk to you on the phone right now. We are working. I have looked into phone systems because there are some people that I sometimes get on. What's that?
They want to call in?
Yeah, the people want to call in, but also there's, for instance, Stanley Gordon in Pennsylvania. I love having him on the show, but he's only ever been on the phone. And so is Stanton Friedman. Stanton Friedman would only do the phone, the old school. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, anyone have any questions or anything? And, we can run the trailer one more time. I tried to find a bunch of images online, and there's really not much, because a lot of, whenever they create a movie like this, they have stills that they put out there. And I'm just not seeing, too much of that out there. I'm just looking to see see, that's blurry. I mean, it was just really not.
What did you think of Hal Puthoff in the film when he made the ant analogy explanation? I thought that was hilarious, very subtly. I don't know if it was intended to be portrayed that way, but I didn't know if he was saying humans were ants in this equation, but he was just using ants as an example in terms of trying to identify if this was actually a threat or not. He was saying like, oh, sometimes when you have ants in the backyard, like, they're there, but you leave them alone and you guys kind of coexist. But once they come in your house and you have an infestation, it becomes a problem, and then you exterminate them. Yeah. So I was like, he didn't word it that way, but I was like, oh man, like, is he really belittling his own species all the way down from an intelligence perspective to an ant compared to whatever this is that's flying around out there? I was like, oh man, that's pretty eye-opening. I don't know if other people would take it that way. He could have just been using an example. But if that's what the distance is between our intelligence as a species compared to what everybody's seeing and claiming to be seeing out there, like us and all the other experiencers out there and folks in the military, I mean, I wouldn't even say, how could you even consider us a threat if we're that dumb compared to what the other thing is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think it's possible that, now, I don't know. I'm just saying it's possible that we're not that dumb compared to whatever it is. But just say if we gain knowledge, there's not, the wheel had to come before the car, that type of thing. So if some civilization if you look at us as a species, and you go back to 18th century second grade math quiz, a lot of us couldn't do that. So, and then, back to the Egyptians doing brain surgery and stuff like that. We always consider that because it's in the past that they're less knowledge. No, they're brilliant people, brilliant. But it's all the learning steps as it goes along. So perhaps the species that are getting here aren't that much more intelligent, probably are, but possibly not. But they learned things. Just look what's going to happen to our species in the next few years with artificial intelligence. We're going to be able to solve things we never thought were possible. Like it's like a jump of 100 years, or you would think. And what will the next 100 years be if we make it? If we make it, that is. But anyway, yeah.
True. You know what? One other thing I learned too in the film that I didn't mention was I think Jay Stratton mentioned it. I didn't realize that the FAA doesn't use radar to identify airplanes or whatever. He said in other words, all the airplanes use their squawking or whatever.
Transponders.
They're transponders. So that's how all the commercial aircraft have to turn on their transponders in order to be tracked by the FAA. The FAA isn't using active radar. I didn't know that was the thing.
Yeah, I had no idea. So here's a funny quote from Duckhead. Thank you. Ants are not making nukes. They're not making nukes. Yeah, that's really kind of a good point. Yeah,
very true.
Yeah, and a lot of people have speculated that's one of the reasons they have shown up is because of our messing with the mattresses. The kids found the mattress at, as Stanton Friedman, who I just mentioned, said. Here's something from Mary Grace Kirby. Love the comment by Hal Puthoff that they may be giving us an IQ test by leaving gifts. Yes. Yeah. I didn't so much buy that. Now, here's one thing I was very surprised Hal Puthoff didn't say when he was talking about the gifts and things like that. Because as he talked about, well, maybe people crash in a car, maybe that's why they crash. But one of the things that he didn't say, and I was kind of surprised at, is that there's been a number of people speculating that they were shot down by us.
Right.
And he didn't bring that up at all.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And Jonathan Wygant, who I had on the show, who I strongly believe his story, he thinks the thing was, I can't remember the type of missile he thought it was hit by, but I do believe that, some of them are getting shot down. And when they don't have a transponder and they're in space where they shouldn't be, I could definitely see that happening.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't really know, much more that we can really talk about. I just I wanted.
What about Mike Flattery, if you don't mind me interrupting?
Oh yeah. You got anything else? We'll definitely talk about. So Mike was someone I had never really heard talk before, and I thought he had interesting thing, but I didn't write down anything that he said. So do you have something?
Yeah, I thought he was interesting just because I had never heard of him before, and I didn't know maybe you've had him on the pod. I wanted to ask. But one thing that he said that was interesting that I drew from in my own experience with the phenomenon is after I had, basically Mike goes on to say in the film, as an intelligence officer, when I had my first encounter, then I started seeing a whole bunch of other phenomena. I didn't know if he specified in the sky or in the ocean or in his home, but I know when I had my first sighting back in 2022, that it kind of kicked it all off for me. It came maybe a year or two after. It was a little delayed, but I've started seeing a whole bunch of things, even things inside my house that I can't really explain, and even physicians that I've talked to just to make sure my vision was okay, which I have excellent vision, 20/20, don't need glasses yet. And they had no explanation for what I was just describing, seeing in my home in terms of the lights and things like that. So, and the things in the sky that I've seen since my first sighting. But I thought that was interesting because speaking from my own experience, I have experienced something similar, albeit probably on a lesser scale than an intelligence officer would, considering how close he probably was to the topic with his own daily work. But just as a regular old layman, typical nobody living in a rural area, I definitely saw things as well, but just on a lesser scale, I would imagine. But I don't want to speak out of turn. But he would be a good get if you could get him on your show if he wants to talk. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, we're always trying for some really interesting guests. Another quote out of the movie I thought was pretty interesting is this is basically a collective claim from multiple intelligence officials, but basically that there is a race between US, Russia, and China to reverse engineer non-human technology. And of course, that there's many reasons for that. I mean, depending on what type of technology can be garnered out of reverse engineering, we're talking a lot of possible power in different ways. I mean, if we just speculate just for 1 minute here, if all of a sudden we did figure out a way to get free energy for all, I mean, I think there would almost be a collapse. First of all, there'd be such friction against it. People would lose their lives. Maybe wars would happen because of the fossil fuel. The fossil fuel is just so powerful. I don't know what it would just turn the whole world on its head if all of a sudden we had free energy. I mean, I think it would be wonderful, but
I think it would be pretty kick-ass. What if we blossomed into this like awesome species when, maybe we're in a pretty shitty place right now, but who knows, maybe it would open up this huge door to a whole new way of living. But who knows? Yeah, you can't predict. Because if you have free energy and it's free to everybody, I would imagine you'd have no problems at that point, right?
Yeah, but it would be such a hard thing to initiate and and change over. Do you know that for instance, this is just a kind of a lame comparison, but the paint roller, you roll wallpaper, with paint roller, that was suppressed for over 30 years by the paintbrush companies. They didn't want it out there. Yes, that was patented and hidden by the brush companies, kept that away from the public.
I gotta
they
love
wanted to sell their brushes. Now, this is my grandfather told me that story, and my grandfather was a professional painter, and all his life he never used a roller. So maybe he was lying to me, but I don't think so. So I'm going to ask Chat GPT.
Ask Chat, see what it says.
Yeah.
If that's true, then I mean, you make an excellent point. I mean, and that's just a paint roller. Oh, can you imagine? So, like, if we're talking about free energy, if that's real, assuming it's real, then I would have to say that would never get out ever. There's no way.
It would definitely be suppressed. If it could be suppressed, it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think about this, Martin? To push back a little bit, I know we both liked the film a lot. Or I keep calling it a film, but the documentary. So what do you make of, like, I know Lou Elizondo has gone on podcasts and he always openly discloses, I still maintain an active security clearance with the United States government. Yet as part of his story and as documented in the documentary of Age of Disclosure, like, he always recaps, I had to quit my job, as if like he got out. But I've always wondered, is that a 100% accurate statement? Like, yes, the statement's true in the sense that he quit and he had to quit and he no longer has his day job, but he's still under the employment in terms of like maintaining that national security. It seems like there's some strings attached is what I'm trying to say. Like, do you see any contradictory statements there? Or, because I don't know enough about the IC to know how they operate. Maybe that's a normal thing and you still maintain your security clearance, but you are really out. But I just wouldn't know.
Well, I do believe, now I'm talking not out of knowledge, but my brother-in-law had the highest security clearance. He worked on nuclear warheads. He was what was it called, quality control type of job he had in Los Alamos Labs. So he from what I understand, you can keep your security clearance. It's something like, if you leave a job, I think you maintain your security clearance. So aren't security clearances for life. I think they might be, but I know they have to be reviewed a lot. And at the time he was getting his clearance, I was with a Russian woman, had been with her for a while, and that was a problem. That was something that, he had to disassociate from me or something. This was a long time ago. I can't remember exactly what happened, but when he was getting his clearance, that was something that they actually were concerned about, which I think is kind of bizarre, at that time. But still, I'm not really sure. There's a lot of speculation about Lou. From the time that I've gotten to know him and talked to him, I feel like he's legitimate. I did ask him one time on this show. I did say to him something along the lines where your personality, you would make a really good disinformation agent. A lot of people think that you are. And he got very angry. He got very angry at that statement. And when some people sometimes can just get angry, and some people get angry when there's something that disturbs them because there's a seed of truth to it. So I'm not sure. And I don't know. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. I know he's made some really big bloopers with some images and things at some of his talks. And he's the first to say that he did. But, it really made me think about the crop circle situation, that picture when he showed that. I was actually streaming that live when he showed that. And right away, people knew what it was. And supposedly he was given that just before he went up to the stage and from an anonymous source. And that he should know that for all the positions he has, that if someone is going to give that to him, watch out, because it really did not help him, his credibility wise. And so, but he should know better than to do that. And I said right after that happened on this show, I said, if I was talking to him personally, I would say, what were you thinking? Why would you do that? But so I know there's a lot of speculation about Lou Elizondo. I think he's a great guy. He's highly intelligent. I think he has a lot to offer. And if he really did, I'm a little confused too, because he said that he kind of lost like everything after he quit his job type of situation. And but then when I was talking to him, he was talking about all the stuff that he collects, Civil War things and Jeeps, and we were, so it's kind of like I don't really understand. I really don't. It's possible I may get to go visit with him at some point through someone else. So he doesn't know that yet. So when I say it's possible, and yeah, I'd like to really get the hands on and see exactly what that man is about.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be good experience through and through, I bet. So hopefully putting the good vibes out there, hopefully it'll happen.
Yeah. But so I don't know if you have any more to add. Any other thing in your notes you'd like to talk about?
One thing, it's not specific, well, it's related to the video, but there was another video that was made. Are you familiar? It's on a different channel, but it's about the UFOs and PSYOPs. And I thought it was an interesting, I guess you could call it like an opinion piece. But are you familiar with the YouTube channel, the Y Files? And I think his name is AJ. You ever heard of him?
No.
Folks in the chat, and for Martin too, definitely check this video out. But it was, he basically has his own rundown of his opinion on PSYOPs as it relates to the UFO topic and things that he looks out for as like a consumer of UFO content. So I thought it was fun. I watched his video, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, but it kind of reframed the way I think about the information that I consume as it relates to the UFO topic. But anyways, it's a good one. I forget what the title of the video is, but if you just type in Y Files and then UFO PSYOP, it would come up. But I only say that to say, Martin, do you buy the story that obviously you can tell in this documentary, it's very intelligence community focused in terms of their primary sources that they're drawing from, rightfully so. But obviously this same community is paid to lie to the American public to keep us safe. That's what their primary focus is. Generally, I'm overgeneralizing here.
Yeah.
But basically, this documentary, we have a group of IC folks saying that within the IC, they started their own UFO program, not being able to find the legacy UFO program at the start. And then when they started researching their UFO program on their own within the IC, and they got like, I guess, maybe too far in their work, and then they eventually came across the legacy program in the IC community somewhere, and they started hammering down on them and their work that they were doing on the side as UFOs,
Yes.
kind of putting them in we're the good guys of the IC community. And I'm only playing devil's advocate here, but as a consumer, as a layman, knowing that this single community is, that's their primary focus, is maybe counterintelligence and lying and all that stuff, just to keep secrets, to keep people safe, giving them the benefit of the doubt, trying to keep people safe, do the right thing. How can you believe this random group of folks within the IC is painting themselves as the good guys, saying, we're trying to bring this out, but the other folks in our community aren't letting us, or whatever. That's the kind of like the vibe I was getting. But what do you think about that? If anything,
I think that is a really, really good point. A really, really good point. And when I've talked with John Kiriakou, former CIA, on air, off air,
great guy.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. But he's very much saying, "Oh yeah, we lie about everything." He doesn't even say
they're supposed to,
and he says, "And we kill people." It's like But I mean, so that's a really good point. I didn't look at that angle. I didn't think of that angle, but you're right. These are people that, they really know how to lie, and, for the reasons and to make things happen in their favor, manipulating everything to get to a certain, outcome. That's kind of what they're trained to do. That is their training, so
sensitizing the masses to certain information to portray a specific, message, or frame a specific narrative, if you will. But it's interesting, fascinating work. I mean, you master communicators at the least, any of those guys.
Yeah. So unless anyone wants to pop in a question really quick and to chat, I think we're going to call it a night. And we're close to an hour. And thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I think I should close the show by playing the trailer once more. And
let's watch it.
So just anyone can watch this now on Prime. You can rent it for, I think, Mary Grace is $19.99, or buy it like I did. I pre-ordered it for $24, so I can watch it. And I rarely watch a movie more than once. That's just the nature of what I do. But this is one that I would definitely consider watching again. I thought it was really, really good. So sure. I'm going to take us out and play the trailer. And thank you all for being here and joining us tonight. Here's the trailer one more time.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real, they're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I worked on highly classified UAP programs.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
A 1-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
So look at that thing. It's rotating. There's a whole fleet of them.
The first country that cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
China has established its own version of a UAP task force.
You think for a second that they wouldn't consider using it to achieve their ends of domination?
This is similar to the Manhattan Project. This is the atomic weapon on steroids.
This is so secret. Very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis. But that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful about a government that doesn't trust its people, because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
What else you want to know?